In the vast, star-studded firmament of Hollywood, only a select few have ascended to the heights of becoming an intergenerational icon. A career that stretches across decades, traversing varied genres, is a coveted dream every artist yearns for. As for Nicolas Cage, he's done one better. Like a cinematic alchemist, he has transmuted the very fabric of film, pushing its boundaries to an unparalleled level. Nicolas Cage, the man, the myth, the legend.
Welcome to Demystifying Nicolas Cage.
Holds the unique distinction of being the first actor to metamorphose into a genre unto himself. The most captivating character that Nicolas Cage has ever brought to life is none other than himself. Born Nicolas Coppola, he is the scion of the illustrious Coppola clan. His father, Auguste Coppola, was a respected professor of literature and the sibling of the illustrious film director Francis Ford Coppola. As if predestined by the gods of cinema, young Nicolas would soon succumb to the irresistible allure of the entertainment industry. And thus, we embark upon the first epoch of Cage's illustrious career. The young thespian, then known as Nick Coppola, dipped his toes into the acting world with the 1981 pilot, The Best of Times. Despite showing promise, it failed to catch the eye of ABC. However, not one to be deterred, he pressed on. The following year, he secured a non-speaking role in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It was during the shooting of his scene that he realized the double-edged sword of his family's fame. The relentless quoting of lines from The Godfather and Apocalypse were now, by the crew, led him to an epiphany. In a bold and arguably ingenious move, he changed his surname, thereby sidestepping the shadow of his illustrious lineage. He christened himself Nick Cage. The choice of his new surname was not random. It was a hat tip to Luke Cage, a comic book character he admired in his youth. This marked the first step in the creation of his new magnetic persona. In swift succession, Cage bagged roles in Valley Girl, Rumblefish, and Racing with the Moon. His foot was firmly in the door. The roller coaster ride that was the next decade saw him oscillate between high points in critically acclaimed indie films like Vampire's Kiss, cult classics like Wild at Heart, and lows like the critical disappointment of Firebirds. Yet, throughout these experiences, Cage proved that he was not just another actor. He was a craftsman, a master of his art who took his work seriously. More than that, he had that extra something, a spark of unpredictability that distinguished him from the rest. His standout moments, like the impromptu recitation of the alphabet in Vampire's Kiss, were like glowing embers, hinting at the incandescent brilliance he had in store for audiences. Cage's early career was marked by bold, daring choices. When these choices worked, they were a triumph. But when they failed, they did so spectacularly. Yet, this didn't deter him. As he continued to build his persona, he scored a few solid victories. The mid-90s witnessed Nick Cage's transformation from a mere actor to a force of nature. All the quirky choices, the idiosyncratic rhythms he'd been experimenting with finally paid off. From his Oscar triumph for Leaving Las Vegas to his blockbuster action films The Rock and Con Air, and his over-the-top John Woo studio film, Face Off, Nick Cage took Hollywood by storm. His meteoric rise was nothing short of a cinematic tour de force. In the illustrious narrative of Nicolas Cage's career, many assumed a specific chapter to be its conclusion. After headlining franchises such as Ghost Rider and National Treasure, Cage found himself embroiled in a skirmish with the IRS, a confrontation comparable to the climactic face-off in one of his action-packed films. As the curtain rose on the 2010s, whispers began to circulate, suggesting that Cage, our beloved hero, had somehow squandered his $150 million fortune and was now in debt to the IRS to the tune of $6.3 million. It was like hearing that Santa Claus had gambled away all the Christmas presents at a Vegas casino. So, what did Cage do in response? Seasoned Hollywood action hero, he rolled up his sleeves and dived into a sea of direct-to-DVD movies and low-budget flicks. to swim his way out of the financial quicksand. Initially, this seemed as unthinkable as a vegan wolf or a caffeine-free, coffee-loving writer. But as Cage stated in a candid GQ interview, his life was a whirlwind of creditors, IRS agents, and the financial strain of keeping his mother out of a mental institution. The man was juggling more than a circus performer on steroids. We all make choices in life. Some of us choose to eat the last slice of pizza. Others decide to star in films like USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage, Arsenal, and Left Behind. Cage, it seemed, felt he had no option but to choose the latter path. You could argue he could have been more strategic, picking roles more befitting a star of his stature, but for many, this would be the point where their careers would nosedive faster than a lead balloon.
Some call me the Dark One, others the Lord of Death. To most, I am Dracula.
Okay, obviously we're dealing with a little bit more than just narcissism here.
Now, let's eat.
They'd have gambled away their legacy and reputation, merely seeking to avoid prison for back taxes. They'd be a forgotten relic, a Wesley Snipes of sorts from a bygone Hollywood era. But Nick Cage, ever the maverick, did something different. He reinvented himself, again. Now, free from the shackles of the IRS, Cage has begun dabbling in offbeat projects. His eclectic film choices have inadvertently kickstarted a renaissance in indie and art house cinema. Cage is now as much a patron of the arts as he is the vessel through which that art reaches us. Films like Pig and Color, Out of Space wouldn't exist without Cage's involvement. Without Cage's willingness to sign on, even less artistically ambitious films like Prisoners of the Ghostland or Willy's Wonderland wouldn't see the light of day. Mandy is a prime example, a psychedelic revenge movie featuring a chainsaw sword fight. It was on the verge of being shelved until Cage stepped in. Nick Cage remains the last vanguard of a time when original stories were celebrated. He's leveraging his stardom to promote the art he wishes to see in the world. But as he ages, will he be able to maintain his leading man status? And what happens when Cage retires? It seems unlikely that a new generation of daring filmmakers will emerge to carry the torch. Unless Cage is secretly training an army of performers in his Las Vegas acting dojo, or planning to clone himself for posterity, we might be in for a cinematic drought. That concludes this installment of our take on the man, the legend Nick Cage. By chance, do you know of other actors who have essentially morphed into their own genres? Share your thoughts in the comments. And remember, like, comment, and subscribe.
Oh, but I watch her so sadly.